Hello and welcome to this exploring session. Today is our second session looking at The Three Ladies of London by Robert Wilson, written sometime in the early 1580s. 1581 seems a reasonably solid date for it, though it has a longer life with other companies further down the line, with him in tow perhaps as well, because he does write a sequel. Which we will get round to at some point with more or less trepidation, depending on how well this and the next session goes. We have read the first three scenes to the place so far, and we've come up with much that we found enjoyable, while at the same time being slightly worried, feeling a bit awkward. It's one of those plays that so far has been perhaps making oppression fun. As I think the catchphrase I came up with last time, it's interesting how it's functioning, and we've got lots and lots of questions about how it works and where it's going and what the play itself is trying to do, and whether what we do with it as and when we perform it in the future. What do we do with a text like this? To help guide us through next sort of half a dozen scenes or so, we're going from scenes 4 to 9 today. We have this wonderful team of readers in the room. So reading Simplicity today is...
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe, a scholar of early modern drama based in Lancaster in the UK.
Reading Sincerity today is...
Hello, my name's Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress, performer, and director and writer based in Brighton in the UK.
And reading the part of Peter and Gerontus today is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor. I am not based in the UK right now. I'm currently based in Germany.
Reading Mercatore or Mercadore or Mercadorus, depending on which edition, is...
My name is Alexandra, and I am sorry.
Today, reading Simony is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author living in Romford.
And today, reading Conscience, Lady Conscience, one of the three ladies of London, is...
Hello, my name is Lynn Freitas. I'm a writing teacher, and I live in the United States in the Northwest.
And reading a Usury today is...
Hello, I'm Lois Potter, a retired academic living in London.
And reading Hospitality today is...
I'm Eric, and I realized just now that I'm starting to resemble a crested duck. They're actually, I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Reading the part of Nicholas Nemo today is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk, and I'm neither an actor nor an academic.
Reading Dissimulation today is...
I'm Pamela Flanagan. I'm an Irish actor based in London.
And finally, reading Lady Lucre today is...
Liza Graham. I'm yet another actor based in London.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally trying to keep everything moving along. So if you didn't get it from the nature of my introduction, there is potential material here which is problematic. And we don't quite know precisely how problematic it may be, but there's definitely been some anti-immigrant sentiments, certainly some anti-foreign sentiments, and we do have a Jewish character coming up. So we may get the triumvirate of anti-Semitism as well. You have been warned. Of course, it may not occur. We won't know until we start reading it. So we're going to start with scene 4. We have just left the household previously of the sort of Lady Lucre and her associated bad people, and to put it a bit simply. And now we are going to scene 4, where we meet up with Enter Simplicity and Sincerity.
Good cousin Simplicity, do somewhat for me.
Yes, faith, cousin Sincerity. I'll do anything for thee. What wouldst for me to do for thee? Canst tell that?
Mass, I cannot tell what shouldst do for me, except thou wouldst give me a new hat.
Ah, alas, I am not able to give thee a new, Why, I marvel then, thou dost do. Dost thou get thy living amongst beggars from door to door? Indeed, cousin Sincerity, I thought that thou wast not so poor.
Nay, cousin Simplicity, I got my living hardly, but yet I hope just, and with good conscience too, although I am restrained from my lust. But this is it, cousin Simplicity, I would request you to do for me, which is to get Lady Love and Lady Conscience hand to a letter, that by their means I may get some benefice to make me live the better.
Yes, I'll do so much for thee, cousin. Hast thou any here?
Ay, behold, they are ready drawn, if assigned they were.
Let Simplicity make as though he read it and look quite over. Meanwhile, let Lady Conscience enter.
Oh, let me see, cousin, for I can read. Mass, 'tis bravely done. Didst thou do it, indeed? Mistress Conscience, I have a matter to bequest you too.
What is't? I doubt not, but 'tis some wise thing, if it be for you.
Marry, my cousin Sincerity would desire to scribe these papers here, that he may get some preferment, but know not where.
Be these your letters? What would you have me do, and how shall I call ye?
Lady, my name is Sincerity.
And from whence come ye?
I came from Oxford, but in Cambridge I studied late, having nothing thought good, if I could, to make better my state. But if I had, instead of divinity, the law, astronomy, astrology, physiognomy, palmistry, arithmetic, logic, music, physic, or any such thing, I had not doubted then but to have had some better living. But divines that preach the word of God sincerely and truly are in these days little or nothing at all set by. God grant the good preachers be not taken away for our unthankfulness. There never was more preaching and less following. The people live so amiss. But what is he that may not look on the Sabbath day, attend to hear God's word? But will he rather run to bowls, sit at the alehouse, than 1 hour afford, telling a tale of Robin Hood, sitting at cards, playing at skittles, or some other vain thing, that I fear God's vengeance on our heads it will bring? God grant amendment. But, Lady Conscience, I pray in my behalf unto Lucre, do what ye may.
Mass, my cousin can say his book well. I had not thought it. He's worthy to have a benefice, and it will hit.
God be blessed, Sincerity, for the comfort I have of thee. Would it lay in us to pleasure such, believe me. We will do what we can, but ultra passe non est esse, you know. It is Lucre that has brought us poor souls so low, for we have sold our house, we are brought so poor, and fear by her shortly to be shut out of door. Yet to subscribe our name, we will with all our heart. Perchance for our sake something she will impart. Come hither, Simplicity, let me write on thy back.
Here is the right picture of that fellow who sits in the corner.
And here enter Hospitality while she is a-writing.
Lady, methinks you are busy.
I have done, sir. I was setting my hand to a letter to Lucre for our friend Sincerity, but I would Lady Love were here too.
She is at home with me, but if it please, so much in her behalf I will do.
I pray you heartily, it shall suffice to turn well enough. Good Simplicity, once more thy body do bow.
I think I shall serve to be a washing block for you. I would do it for you, but I'm afraid yonder boy will mock me.
No, I warn thee.
Here, take thy letters, Sincerity. I wish them prosperous to thee.
I yield you most hearty thanks, my good lady.
Lady Conscience, pleases it you to walk home to dinner with me?
I give you thanks, my good friend Hospitality. But I pray you, sir, have you invited to dinner any stranger?
No, sure, none but Lady Love and 3 or 4 honest neighbours.
My lady is gotten to dinner already. I believe she rose at 10 o'clock. She's so hungry. What? And I should come to dinner? Hast thou any good cheer?
I have bread and beer, one joint of meat, and welcome thy best fare.
Why, art thou called hospitality? That's no better cheer than that. I'll tell thee, if thou hast no more meat for so many, they'll ne'er be fat. What if my cousin, nay, I myself alone to dinner should come? Or where should my lady and the rest dine? For I could eat up every crumb. Thou art an old miser. Dost thou keep no better fare in thy house? Hast thou no great bag pudding, nor hog's face that is called souse?
My friend, hospitality doth not consist in great fare and banqueting, but in doing good unto the poor, and to yield them some refreshing. Therefore thou in sincerity will come and take part. Such as I have, I'll give you with a free and willing heart.
And exit hospitality and Lady Conscience.
He speaks well, cousin. Let's go to dinner with him. The old man shall not think but we will pleasure him. Faith, he might have richer fellows than we to take his part, but he shall never have better eating fellows, if he would swell his heart. Here be them that will eat with the proudest of them. I'm sure my mother said I could eat so much as 5 men. Nay, I have a gift for eating, I tell you, for our maids would never believe I put all the meat in my belly. But I have spied a knave, my lady Lucre's cogging man. Give me your letters, cousin. I'll prefer ye if I can.
And we'll just pause there before the entrance of Dissimulation. Nay, I have a gift for eating, I tell you. Yes. I like that.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
With.
Okay, so simplicity acting as something of a go-between for Sincerity to appeal to Lady Conscience. What precisely was it that Sincerity was after? Who would like to elucidate on that thought? What was the appeal going on? Alan, I saw a hand.
Yeah, he was basically trying to get preferment in the church or a benefice, which of course we know from what's gone before that that's basically under the control of Simony and Lady Lucre. So to a certain extent he's pitching to the wrong side.
Yeah, because Lady Conscience does sort of say, well, I'm sort of not in a great way financially at the moment. It's all gone a bit wrong because of Lady Lucre. So yeah, there's all sorts of things going on there. Other thoughts about simplicity and sincerity as almost a double act? Are they a double act? They're not quite, but any thoughts?
I think it's a little early to say yet, but I'm wondering whether it's almost like that Gemini effect we were talking about yesterday, in the sense that simplicity, in a way, is representing the other side of sincerity. I mean, at least sincerity is coming from a very good place, it seems. But sincerity, I don't know as yet. I think there's 1 or 2 clues that may mean that there's some kind of trickery maybe about to happen, but I'm not sure. It doesn't sit well at the moment, but maybe it's just because I'm reading a little further ahead as well, but I'll try not to do that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very uncertain partnership at the moment. There's just something about it that doesn't ring true. Don't know why.
And hospitality coming in as well, which gives Simplicity the chance to be very desirous of food, but also what's the sort of my lady has gotten to dinner already. Love being very hungry is an interesting thought. Anyone want any other thoughts or want to jump in or reactions to any of that? Lois?
Yeah, well, hospitality is an old man. They comment on this. That's presumably because people are always talking about the decay of hospitality. There was more hospitality in the good old days and so on. And I assume that's why. There was something else that really puzzled me. There are a couple of references. I think one is somebody in the corner and how he's going to react to things. And I think something about a boy who might be reacting. I couldn't make out if these are people in the audience that they're picking on, or whether there's somebody on the stage that's going to appear eventually.
Stephen.
Yeah, I wondered about the fellow that sits in the corner as well. I mean, I wasn't here yesterday, but I've got a filthy mind, really. And so I'm thinking about the position. So somebody is sort of bending over and somebody is bending over their back. And my mind is racing to the sort of the meanings of the word ingle in the period.
Oh, yes.
The sort of which is a corner, but it's
ingle nook, yeah.
Also somebody who has sex with other men. But I mean, it seems a bit out of place with the rest of it to drop something like that in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that yes, the idea that they're well, if you've got if conscience is writing, on the back of.
And then I would do it, but I'm afraid the boy will mock me.
Yeah.
But that could apply to any meaning of it. It just looks ridiculous, I guess.
Yeah, because it could be the other person on stage, or it could be someone in the audience. You're right in that sense.
So a washing block, you'd be doing that, wouldn't you? You'd be sort of lunging forward.
Liza, you're muted.
The other thing you do in corners is, of course, use the chamber pot. And I'm guessing Simplicity is crouching down to be written on. So there could be a filthy explanation that isn't to do with sex. But I mean, Sincerity's speech is yet another way to castigate the audience for liking secular things better than sacred things. Saying, well, if I'd studied something other than divinity, I could have made a living, but people would rather do fun things than go to church. Yes, fun is bad. Never have fun.
Yeah, Alan.
Yeah, just very briefly, the shift in Simplicity's character, but now he's got a role, effectively working for Conscience. He seems to be developing some of the character traits that we have seen with the Vices.
In what way?
In terms of basically getting more greedy. The fact he's got a position now where he can actually try and make something for himself out of it.
Wasn't he always wasn't there reference to appetite last time as well?
We saw that shift right at the end of his first scene, where he asked Lady Lucre, Lady Love, wasn't it? He asked Lady Love if he could marry her, and she said, "No, love will not marry Simplicity." And his motivation immediately turned to food and says, "Well, will you at least give me some dinner?"
It's in that sense, it's sort of clown business, isn't it? Rather than necessarily character business, if that's an unfair distinction to make. Any other thoughts? We still haven't finished the scene. He's still on stage with Sincerity, but we're about to have the impact of Dissimulation. I think we'll move forward for a bit before we get a bit more evidence before we continue talking. So enter Dissimulation. Sincerity does not seem to be impressed.
Dissimulation. Out on him! He shall be no spokesman for me.
Then you were a fool, cousin Sincerity. Give me him. I tell you, I know he'll do it for me.
Seeing thou wilt have it, here, receive it. But yet it grieves my heart that this dissembling wretch should speak on my part.
Hear ye, sir, I would request you to deliver this letter to your good, wholesome mistress, Lady Lucre.
Where hadst thou it? Tell me.
Well, marry of my cousin Sincerity.
Why, I have nothing to do in it. 'Tis not to me thou shouldst come. I have not to do with Sincerity's matter. 'Tis my fellow Simony's room.
Thou art akin to the lawyer. Thou wilt do nothing without a fee. But thou, fraud, usury, nor yet simony, shall do nothing for me. And thou wilt do it. Do it, and thou wilt not choose. But thee and their dealing I hate and refuse.
Why? And I am not bound to thee so far as knave go, and therefore, in despite of thee and thy cousin, there thy letters be. What, thinkest thou by captious words to make me do it? Let them deliver your letters that hath a stomach to it.
Faith, cousin, he's such a teston and proud, sembling knave, that he'll do nothing less than bribery he have. There's a great many such promoting knaves that gets their living with nothing else but facing, lying, swearing, and flattering. Why, he has a face like a black dog, and blusheth like the backside of a chimney. 'Twas not for nothing thy godfathers a cogging name gave thee.
And enter Lady Lucre.
But here comes his mistress, Lady Lucre. Now, cousin, I'll deliver your letter. Mistress Lady Lucre, here's a letter for ye.
Hast thou a letter for me?
Yes, by St. Mary. How say you, cousin? She reads your letter, and you can flatter. Perhaps you shall speed better.
Thou speakest the truth, Simplicity, for flatterers nowadays live gentlemanlike, and with prating get praise.
Sir, I have read the tenure of your letter, wherein I find that at the request of love and conscience I should show myself kind, in bestowing some spiritual living on ye, parsonage or benefice. It seems it stands greatly in need, as appears by this, and, trust me, I would do for you, but it lies not in me, for I have referred all such matters to my servant Simony. You must speak to him, and if you can get his goodwill, then be sure of mine their minds to fulfill.
Lady, I shall never get his goodwill, because I want ability, for he will do nothing, except I bring money, and if you grant it not, then 'tis past all doubt. I shall never be the better, but go quite without.
Madam, I can tell you what you may give, not hurting yourself, whereby he may live, and without my fellow Simony's consent, if to follow my mind you are any whit bent.
Pray thee, what is it thou knowest? For while for their house I am bargaining, and it be never so little, I must seem to do something.
Why, have you not the parsonage of St. Nihil to bestow? If you give him that, Simony shall never know.
Indeed thou sayest true. Draw near, Sincerity. Lo, for their sakes I will bestow frankly on thee. I'll give thee the parsonage of St. Nihil to pleasure them withal, and such another to it, if thou watch till it fall.
Well, my lady axes you, when will you take possession of your house and lend the rest of the money?
What, are they so hasty? Belike they spent it merrily.
Well, faith, no. They thought they would eat it if they could get it when they were hungry. You may be happy. You have sped well today. You may thank God and good company that you came this way. The parsonage of St. Michael's. My lady, if you have nothing else, you shall be sure of a living, beside a good ring of bells. Cousin, I'll tell thee what thou shalt do. Sell the bells and make money.
Thou mayest well be, Simplicity, for thou showest thy folly. I have a parsonage, but of what? Of St. Nihil, and Nihil is nothing. Then where is the church, or any bells for to ring? Thou understandst her not. She was set for to flout. I thought coining in their names I should go without. 'Tis easy to see that Lucre loves not love and conscience. But God, I trust, will one day yield her just recompense.
Cousin, you said that something to me you would give when you had gotten preferment of Lucre to live, and I trust you will remember your poor cousin Simplicity. You know, to Lady Conscience and everybody, I did speak for you.
Good Simplicity, hold thy peace. My state is yet nought. I will help thee sure, if ever I get aught. But here comes Sir Nicholas Nemo. To him I will go, and see if for their sakes he will anything bestow.
So from one nothing to another enter Sir Nicholas Nemo.
You come from love and conscience, as seemeth me here, my special good friends, whom I account of most dear. And you are called Sincerity, your state shows the same. You're welcome to me for their sakes, and for your own name. And for their sakes, you shall see what I do for you, without dissimulation, fraud, usury, or simony. But they will do nothing without some kind of gain. Such cankered corruption in their hearts doth remain. And come into dinner with me, and when you have dined, you shall have...
And he presently goes out.
You shall have... But what? A living that is blown down with the wind?
Now, cousin, dismember your friends, seeing 2 livings you have. One that this man promised, another that Lady Lucre gave. Yes, you'd be a jolly man. You had 3 or 4 more. Let's beg apace, cousin, and we shall get good store. Do thou get some more letters, and I'll get them scribed of Mistress Love and Conscience, and we'll go beg livings together. We'll beg no small pence. Well, how sayest thou, cousin Sincerity? Would do so much? We can speak fair and semble. We shall be plaguey rich.
Good Simplicity, content thee. I am never the better for this, but we must of course leave off, for I see how vain it is. It boots not Sincerity to sue for relief, so few regard me. That to me is a grief. This was Nicholas Nemo, and no man hath no place. Then how can I speed well in this heavy case? And no man bid me to dinner, when shall I dine? Or how shall I find him? Where, when, and at what time? Wherefore the relief I have had, and shall have, is small. But speak truth, the relief is nothing at all. But come, Simplicity, let us go see what may be had. Sincerity in these days was sure born to be sad.
Oh, come, let's go to dinner, cousin. The gentleman, I think, hath almost dined. But I do get victuals enough, I'll warrant you, I will not be behind.
What if thou canst not get it then? How wilt thou eat?
Well, marry, on this fashion, with both hands at once. You shall see when I get meat.
Why, his name was Nemo, and Nemo hath no being.
I believe, cousin, you be not hungry. You stand prating. Faith, I'll go do him a pleasure, because he hath need. Why, and he have needs of meat, I shall see how I'll feed. I believe he will not bid me to come again to him. Mass, and he do, shall find a fellow that has his eating.
And they exit. I am wondering here whether the joke, if there is a joke, and that's the way to put it, of this scene is that we have Sincerity and all these bad things are happening to Sincerity. All these things are, non-things are happening to Sincerity. And he keeps having to explain it to Simplicity, and Simplicity just keeps not getting it. And that actually that is designed for a humorous response. That there may be more frustration in Simplicity, trying to keep explaining. No, his name was Nemo. Nemo means nothing, and he keeps not getting it. Especially as we had earlier in the scene, the letter that he in theory can read, but in practice doesn't look like he actually can. And the way that dynamic is supposed to function. I would wonder about Sir Nicholas Nemo. Does he just fade away? Was he just a mirage?
Just a smile left behind.
Yes. So yeah, there's all sorts of interesting things about this where I think this whole scene is supposed to be a lot funnier than it was coming across here. I think it's designed to be a lot funnier than it's coming across here. Cold read, that's the nature of the beast. Because I think you need to dive a lot more. Liza's hand's been up for a while. You are muted.
Thank you for warning me about being muted. I think you're right. I think the mistaking in this scene can get a lot funnier. One thing I wondered was, rather than Saint Nihil, it might have been Saint Nihil, because with a long I, because simplicity mistakes it for the parish of St. Michael. So, but I'm not sure what the point of Nemo is. I guess we'll find out if he comes back.
He's no one. He will never come back.
But then why bring him on stage?
It's a continuation of the same gag, isn't it? You get nothing from no one.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you've done this, there's a play of this era called Nobody and Somebody.
Not yet. But it's on. It is one. It's got a great title page.
Yes, it really has.
Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I think potentially this is very funny, but I'm not sure exactly how you would do it. I mean, you might have Sir Nicholas Nemo just be incredibly nice and effusive and just everything you could possibly want, you know, overwhelm them with his kindness. And then you eventually discover that the name is Nobody. In other words, nobody is ever that nice. But it's kind of an intellectual idea that doesn't quite work, I think.
I mean, I think the way I would do it is that he's never stops moving and he literally just hands his card and then he's off.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does a very long circuit, and it's just that, you know, here is my card, right, or something like that. But I don't know, maybe there are other thoughts in the room. I see lots of hands. Sascha first.
Yeah, I'd agree in the sense of, I think obviously the cold read doesn't help the comedy factor, but I see where you're going with this. One way you could actually get the comedy aspect tune from is, you know, to add to the frustration of the over-explaining that Sincerity has to do. Simplicity, I think it's down to almost like a Laurel and Hardy type reaction. So you've got one half of the duo who's actually physically reacting. You know, like say for instance, if you're pretending to read, you know, it's like, I can read. You know that, you know, and just have a reaction to the audience as to indicate it's like no, but yeah, you can. It's either one of. I think it's one of those scenes that you've either got to go acting wise big with it, or go home, basically.
Yes, there's an interesting sound artifact. Anyway, Stephen.
Well, just to add the Nemo thing, I was imagining an incredibly absent-minded aristocrat who just sort of, you know, and sort of absent-mindedly left before finishing the sentence. So that would be a way to do it. I completely agree with the last point, though. You know, it's just really difficult to think of physicality if you're just doing a cold reading. But we do seem to have some, you know. The text does seem to be asking us to have some shapes thrown on stage, and particular attitudes and poses. So yeah, I think that would be absolutely the way you would go with it.
Other thoughts, other hands? I thought I saw some earlier, but I forget who might be wanting to leap in. No, everyone's good. So that was scene 4. Lots of things to chew there. I think that's one that needs to be workshopped. It really feels like you need to get the reality, the physical reality, you know, the business of the bending over, writing on it, even if it's not sexual, it's still comic business of, no, I haven't finished yet, get back down again. And, you know, constantly getting back up, and there are games that could be played within the action of the scene, and but you know, Sincerity's not having much luck. I think it's fair to say. You can't melt down the bells of no church, the Church of Nowhere. So we go to scene 5. We are going to have an encounter between Usury and Conscience. Usury speaks first.
Lady Conscience, is there anybody within your house? Can you tell?
There is nobody at all, yea, be ye sure, I know certainly well.
You know, when one comes to take possession of any piece of land, there must not be one within, for against the order of law it doth stand. Therefore I thought good to ask you, but I pray you think not amiss, for both you and almost all others knows that an old custom it is.
You say truth. Take possession when you please. Good leave I render ye. Doubt you not, there is neither man, woman, nor child that will or shall hinder thee.
Why then I will be bold to enter.
Who is more bold than Usury to venture? He maketh the matter dangerous where is no need at all, but he thinks it not perilous to seek every man's fall. Both he and Lucre hath so pinched us, we know not what to do. Were it not for hospitality, we knew not whither to go. Great is the misery that we poor ladies abide, and much more is the cruelty of Lucre and Usury beside. O conscience, thou art not accounted of. O love, thou art little set by. For almost every one true love and pure conscience doth deny. So hath Lucre crept into the bosom of man, woman, and child, that every one doth practice his dear friend to beguile. But God grant hospitality be not by them overpressed, in whom all our stay and chiefest comfort doth rest. But Usury hates hospitality, and cannot him abide, because he for the poor and comfortless doth provide. Here he comes, and hath undone many an honest man, and daily seeks to destroy, deface, and bring to ruin, if he can. Now, sir, have you taken possession as your dear lady willed you?
I have done it, and I think you have received your money. But this to you, my lady willed me to bid you provide some other house out of hand, for she would not by her will have love and conscience to dwell in her land. Therefore I would wish you to provide ye, so ye should save charges, for a less house may serve ye.
I pray you heartily let us stay within, and we will be content to give you £10 a year, which is the old rent.
£10 a year, that were a stale jest, if I should take the old rent to follow your request. Nay, after £40 a year, you shall have it for a quarter, and you may think too I greatly befriend you in this matter. But no longer than for a quarter to you I'll set it, for perhaps my lady shall sell it, or else to some other will let it.
Well, sith we are driven to this hard and bitter drift, we accept it, and are contented to make bare and hard shift.
Then get you gone, and see at a day your rent be ready.
We must have patience perforce, seeing there is no remedy.
And exit Lady Conscience.
What a fool was I! It repents me I have let it so reasonable. I might so well have had after 60 as such a trifle. For seeing they were distressed, they would have given largely. Oh, I was a right sot, but I'll be overseen no more, believe me.
And here enter Mercatores.
Ah, my good Master Usury, by my troth, you be very well met. Me be much beholden unto you for your goodwill, me be in your debt, but me take your part so much against a scald old churl called Hospitality, that speak against you, and says, you bring good honest men to beggary.
Oh, I thank you, sir. Did he speak such evil of me as you now say? I doubt not, but to reward him for his treachery one day.
But I pray, tell me how fare my lady all this while.
Very, very well, sir, and here she comes, if myself I do not beguile.
And indeed, we enter Lady Lucre.
What, Signor Mercatore? I have not seen you many a day. I marvel what is the cause you kept so long away.
Shall me say you, Madonna, that we have had much business for you in hand, for send away good commodities out of this little country England. We have now sent over brass, copper, pewter, and many other things, and for that we shall have a gentlewoman's fine trifles that great profit will bring.
I perceive you have been mindful of me, for which I thank you. But, Usury, tell me, how have you sped in that you went about?
Oh, indifferently, lady, you need not to doubt. I have taken possession, and because they were destitute, I have let it for a quarter. My tale to conclude, Mary, I have a little raised the rent, but it is but £40 by the year. But if it were now to let, I would let it more dear.
Indeed, 'tis but a trifle, it makes no matter. I force not greatly, being but for a quarter.
Madonna, me tell you what you shall do. Let them to stranger that are content to dwell in a little room and to pay much rent. For you know the Frenchmans and Flemings in this country be many, so that they make shift to dwell 10 houses in one, very gladly, and be content for pay 50 or £60 a year for that which the Englishmans say 20 mark is too dear.
Why, Signor Mercatore, think you not that I have infinite numbers in London that my want doth supply? Besides in Bristow, Northampton, Norwich, Westchester, Canterbury, Dover, Sandwich, Portsmouth, Plymouth, and many more, that great rents upon little room do bestow. Yes, I warrant you. And truly I may thank the strangers for this, that they have made houses so dear whereby I live in bliss. But, Signor Mercatore, dare you to travel undertake, and go amongst the Moors, Turks, pagans, for my sake?
Madonna, me dare go to the Turks, Moors, pagans, and more, too. What do me care and me go to the great devil for you? Command me, madam, and you shall see plain that for your sake me refuse no pain.
Then, Signor Mercatore, I am forthwith to send you from hence to search for some new toys in Barbary and in Turkey, such trifles as you think will please wantons best, for you know in this country 'tis their chiefest request.
Indeed, the gentlewomen's here buy so much vain toys that we strangers laugh at to think wherein have their joys. Fate, Madonna, me will search all the strange countries me can tell, but me will have such things that please the gentlewomen's well.
Why then, let us provide things ready to haste you away.
A vostro comandamento, Madonna, me obey.
End scene. So many thoughts. So many thoughts. So it's really interesting. I'm just going to try and piece out the property transaction that's occurring here. Is it that the house has been repossessed from Conscience, but then they're going to rent it back to Conscience 4 times the rent that she was charging for other people, with a loan that she's got from them in the first. It seems very it's a very nicely satirical but roundabout sort of thing, I think. Was that right? Other thoughts to add on that? Let's start with the general rent gouging of the opening of the scene before we get to the horrific iniquities that will come towards the end. Alan first.
Sale of council housing and buy-to-let landlords.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts?
We've got rent gouging here too, so it's so familiar.
We keep finding things that haven't changed particularly. This is feeling a lot less problematic in a sense that deliberately this is not a good thing that is being presented by the play, which is nice. Alexandra, were you waving?
Yeah, I was going to point out that it's another one of those things that strike us as very modern, that in a contemporary production, you would very well have as a reaction, from the audience, you'd be getting, oh God, wait, hang on, what? Which I love. And yeah, the fact that the complexity of what is happening is difficult to follow is also the case nowadays. Sometimes you sort of go, wait, I'm not entirely sure how we got here. But when you then break it down and go, this is unjust and unjust again and unjust again, it is followable. And I think that's kind of the point. And going back to the whole, what is it, Priory of St. Nihil? Parsonage of St. Nihil. There's a similar thing there where we as the audience both recognize, we don't have that kind of connection nowadays as they would have had, to the way in which things work on a religious level, I guess. But this idea of going, I will give you, ask me for a position and I will give you something. I will give you a job that has a title but nothing else to it, is again something that we yeah, wait, what? You know, so yes, I think there are ways in which a lot of what we've been looking at today can be made to feel a lot more punching, a lot more strikingly resonant, as this bit does.
Lois.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure about the deal at the beginning. As far as I can make out, they've been conscience and love are so poor now, thanks presumably to Lady Lucre, that they've had to sell the house. But then they think they're going to be able to continue living in it. But in fact, Usury evicts them, and then he says he'll rent it to them for a quarter, but for 4 times what they were paying before. Is that right? But I can't quite make out why they thought they could continue living there.
I think there's a point of law about continued occupancy that might I saw in a footnote, but I could be entirely wrong whether I misread that or not. So
Usury wants to be sure no one's in the house when he moves in. Yeah.
Alan.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is they've put the house up as security for the loan, which has then been called in, and then Usury is basically saying, okay, I've now got possession, but I'll let it back to you at 4 times the price.
Eric.
I was going to say that it's interesting how basically in this situation you can see that like love and conscience depend on Lucre, which you wouldn't really expect, I guess. I mean, like you'd expect that, like, okay, maybe they're not the richest characters in the world, but in this, like, if you think about it, like love and conscience depending on like a monetary institution is basically, well, more or less, is kind of like strange, isn't it?
Well, maybe in the real world, people's love and conscience are driven slightly by money. If we want to follow less than ideal things, it's easier to be a kind and generous person if you have cash to burn, perhaps. Discuss. I wouldn't put that in an absolute term, but it's one of those things. It's interesting. All the good people are really, really worrying about where their next meal are coming from. I mean, the last scene we had Simplicity and Sincerity basically going, what are we going to eat? And Simplicity going, oh yeah, well, when I've got it, I'll just put it in my mouth, it'll be fine. And it's going, no, but how do we get it? And that's important. Stephen, I saw a hand. You are muted.
I was just wondering about the frame of values through which we see these characters, because Usury and Simony are, that's to me sounds like something that's quite residual, harkening back, perhaps hundreds of years to the church's attitude towards these things. And I was wondering about how that might inflect our sense of the world of the play, in that it's a kind of, good old-fashioned values sort of play, if you like. There's a kind of label there for us. So not only about what they're saying and what they're doing, but actually, morality style. The names of the characters harken back to a set of values which might be seen to be perhaps out of fashion or under attack these days, but in some unspecified good old days, such things were less important.
Yeah, I think there is that pressure between the old and the new. I think that's part of what's going on here. I mean, we were talking about some of the problematic things that were coming through last time with the depiction and discussion of people who are from foreign parts. With this scene, what we have is the explicit exploitation of people coming from overseas, and that they're being presented as victims rather than as scapegoats. So we're again coming to that question of what is the play saying or the author trying to say, and now there are a couple of scenes in, it's got a little more complicated, because this plan that's being put forward is, we can cram as many immigrants into this house as possible and force them to pay more money that the locals won't agree to do. And how many times have we heard that as well in modern discourse? So any additional thoughts there? Nobody really wanting to dive in on that one. I can understand why. But yeah, it is that question as we go in. How simplistic a vision is this play presenting, and it's actually seemed to be a lot more complex, even though it's presenting it to us in an old form, as Stephen was saying, that is presenting a world that's slightly more black and white, and that perhaps as we go on, hopefully, he said, it will get more complex.
It is a little weird, isn't it? It's like a morality play by economists.
Economists don't do morals.
No, they have no interest at all. Well, depending on the economist. Yeah, Stephen.
Well, as far as I understand it, one of the things about the early modern period is that because of the way inheritance works and because of the mortality rate, that you could quite easily find yourself in a situation where somebody else inherits something, the rights to something or a property you're living in, and you would be turned out. There's quite a lot of perhaps turnover just because of the way that, if you look at early modern wills, they're full of this goes to this person, this goes to that person. And while there might have been originally relationships attached to these things, they just get handed over to somebody who just sees it as a way to make money. So it might be quite a bit more prevalent, particularly in somewhere like London, than, these roles might not necessarily be placed in a sort of we will do this to the immigrants way. It might be more a general social problem, or seen as a social problem.
Okay, we're going to move forward to scene 6. Not a long scene. We meet a new character. So enter Simony and Peter Pleasman like a parson. So Peter and Simony speaks first, then Peter. So it's Elizabeth, who is muted, followed by Tamara, who is unmuted.
Now proceed with your tale, and I'll hear thee.
And so, sir, as I was about to tell you, this same Fresco and this same Krakow be both my parishioners now. And, sir, they fell out marvellously together about you. This same Krakow took your part and said that the clergy was upholden by you and maintained very worshipfully. So, sir, Fresco, he would not grant that in no case, but said that you did corrupt the clergy and dishonour that holy place. Now, sir, I was weary to hear them at such great strife, for I love to please men so long as I have life. Therefore, I beseech your mastership to speak to Lady Lucre, that I may be her chaplain, or else to serve her.
What is your name?
Sir Peter.
What more?
Forsooth, please, man.
Then your name is Peter, please, man.
Aye, forsooth.
And please, woman, too, now and then.
You know that Homo is indifferent.
Now, surely, a good scholar in my judgment. I pray, at what university were you?
Of no university, truly. Marry, I have gone to school in a college where I have studied 2 or 3 places of divinity, and all for Lady Lucre's sake, sir. You may steadfastly believe me.
Nay, I believe you. But of what religion are you? Can you tell?
Marry, sir, of all religions. I know not myself very well.
You are a Protestant now, and I think to that you will grant.
Indeed, I have been a Catholic, marry now for the most part a Protestant. But if my service may please her, hark in your ears, sir. I warrant you my religion shall not offend her.
Very well, but if I help you to such great preferment, would you be willing that for my pain I shall have yearly half the gain? For it is reason, you know, that if I help you to a living, that you should unto me be somewhat beholding.
Aye, sir, and reason good. I'll be as your mastership please. I care not what you do, so I may live at ease.
Then this man is answered. Sir Peter Pleasman, come in with me, and I'll refer you straight away to my lady.
Oh, sir, I thank ye.
Very briefly pause on this scene. Lots of good stuff. Did you go to a university? No, I've got this online certificate on my wall.
Several.
Yeah. I'm all the religion. Which one do you want? Never accepts the proposition of the question. Always wait to find out what the client wants first.
Carry on, clergy.
The clue's in the name. Peter Pleasman. He's gonna please. Man or woman. Unfortunate.
The homo is indifferent.
Yes. I think that has a slightly different connotation today, but it's Lynn.
Well, I was just going to comment that the frankness of this scene about the instability of religious practice, I'm impressed that they are so upfront about it. Indeed, I have been a Catholic, married now for the most part, a Protestant. But if my service please her, hearken your ear, sir, I warrant you my religion shall not offend her. I mean, England had been through some very rapid and extreme religious reversals in the generation or so before this. People were Catholic and then English Catholic under Henry VIII, and then kind of a radical turn towards Protestantism when he died, and his sons, during his son's administration, back to being Roman Catholic, and then the sort of take or death Elizabethan settlement. This idea that I'm whatever religion works for you. That's the way it was, but I think people were mostly unwilling to come right out and say that religion changes with the administration, and there's really no sincerity, has nothing to do with it. So it's very daring of this playwright to just put that right out on the table.
Yeah, especially if this is connected with a play like The Peddler's Prophecy, which plays on that question again, not only of actually what the official religion is, but what actually people interpret the official religion as, by getting just very confused because they keep getting sent all these mixed signals about where they're supposed to land. I mean, it's a bit more solid by the 1580s than the 1560s, but there's still, if it is, maybe that's a bee in this particular person's bonnet. I saw lots of hands, so I'll start with Sascha first.
Yeah, I agree with what's just been said there, but I just wanted to add, it's a weird observation, I know, but put it this way, this policeman character, I've just realised who he reminds me of. If any of you know Roald Dahl's Matilda, he reminds me of dodgy car salesman Mr. Wormwood. It's that whole thing of the dodgy wheeler dealer, a little bit woe, a little bit way occasionally, that quick adaptation. But who knows, if we're looking at it in a more serious context, apart from that comparison, I like the fact, again, that it's so blatantly honest, the writing. It's on the table, it's there, deal with it attitude is quite striking. And it's like, look, this is the reality, this is what we're up against. So using that as an interesting plot device to highlight that this sort of thing does take place even in the church, brave, but I think it's a really good plot device to basically say, look, excuse me, this is actually happening, guys. Be aware.
Lois, I saw a hand.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's whether Marston knew this play or whether it's just something that everybody was saying anyway, but there's a bit in The Malcontent where the disguised hero asks a flattering courtier, what religion will you be of now? And the courtier answers, of the Duke's religion, when I know what it is.
Mm. Yeah. It's the way to stay alive, as Alexandra put in the chat. I'm whichever religion will not get me killed. Liza.
I think it's interesting to have, we've had two priests in a row, Sincerity and Pleasman, and it's sort of I think the playwright means that it's meant to be an image of a priest who can't thrive in these times and an image of a priest who can. And, you know, probably the happy medium is somewhere between the two. The author clearly admires sincerity for his principles, but we all know that flexibility of mind is also a virtue.
Right. Let's move on to another short scene coming up. Scene 7. Enter Simplicity with a basket on his arm.
You think I'm going to market to buy roast meat, do you not? Thought so. But you are deceived. I wot what I wot. I'm neither going to the butcher's to buy veal, mutton, or beef, but I'm going to a bloodsucker. Who is it? Faith? Usury, that thief. Why, sirs, 'twas no marvel he undid my father, that was called plain dealing, when he's undone my lady and conscience too, with his usuring. Tell ye, sirs, trust him not, for he'll flatter on fashion and saw, till he's gotten the baker vantage, and he'll turn you out the door.
Enter Dissimulation.
Simplicity. Now of my honesty, very heartily well met.
What simulation? Swear not. Thou swearest by that thou couldst not get. Thou have honesty now. Thy honesty is quite gone. Marry, thou hadst honesty at 11 of the clock. It went from you at noon. Why, how canst thou have honesty when it dare not come nigh thee? I warrant simulation, but he has less honesty than thou may defy thee. Thou hast honesty, Sir Reverence. Come out, dog, where art thou? Even as much honesty as had my mother's great hoggish sow. No, faith, I must put out my eye with honesty, if thou hadst here. Hast thou not left it at the alehouse, engaged for a pot of strong beer?
Pray thee, leave prating, Simplicity, and tell me what thou hast there.
There's nothing for thee. Thou dost not deal with such kind of ware. Sir, there is no deceit in a bag pudding, is there? Nor in a plain pudding pie? There is deceit and knavery too in thy fellow, that's called usury. Sirrah, I'll tell thee. I will not tell thee. And yet I'll tell thee. Now I remember me too. Canst tell, or wouldst know, whither with this parliament I go, faith? Even to Suckswill, my fellow usury, I am sent, with my lady love's gown, and lady conscience too, for a quarter's rent.
Alas, poor lady love, art thou driven so low? Some little pittance on thee I'll bestow. Hold, Simplicity, carry her 3 or 4 ducats from me, and commend me to her even very heartily.
Duck eggs, yeah, I'll carry 'em, and 'twere as many as this would hold.
Thou knowest not what I mean. Take this, 'tis gold.
Mass, 'tis gold indeed. What wilt thou send away thy gold? Hast thou no more need? I think thou art grown plaguy rich with thy dissembling trade. But I'll carry my lady the gold, for this will make her well apaid.
And sirrah, carry Lady Love's gown back again, for my fellow usury shall not have her gown. I am sure so much he will befriend me.
Ah, but what shall Conscience gown do? Shall I carry it back again too?
Nay, let Conscience gown and skin to usury go. If nobody cared for Conscience more than I, they would hang her up like bacon in a chimney to dry.
Faith, I told thee thou caredst not for conscience nor honesty. I think indeed it will never be the death of thee. But I'll go and dispatch my errand so soon as I can, I tell ye. For now I have gold, I would fain have some good meat in my belly.
And exit Simplicity, leaving Dissimulation.
Nay, I'll hie me after, that I may send back Lady Love's gown. For I would not have love brought quite out of town. Marry, for conscience, I care not 2 straws. Why I should take care for her, I know no kind of cause.
Lots of interesting questions are coming out of that in my mind. Lots of nice, straightforward things. Duck eggs for ducats. Nice verbal confusion, wordplay stuff from the clown. I'm trying to think of where we've definitely come across this before somewhere else. Of the I'm holding a prop, you don't know what I'm doing with it or what it's for business. We've had that somewhere else, and I can't remember where. It sort of echoes the prologue in this play quite nicely of saying, well, do you know what this is? Do you know, whereas in the prologue it was, this play isn't going to be about this. It might be about something else, but I'm not going to tell you what it's about yet. And then later in the scene, you sort of find out what precisely is going on. We've had pawning of gowns before as well.
Yeah.
No cow.
Cow again.
Well, he had to keep pawning his wife's gown. It was terrible. She was, and her wind. Terrible, terrible wind. Looking glass for London and England.
Isn't there a thing about Tarleton standing in front of the Queen saying, "No parsonage"?
A parson, no parson, yeah. So yeah, there's all sorts of random things that sort of connect, but also really don't connect, and that we're now going on a tangent. But yeah, thoughts about this scene. Why does Dissimulation give Simplicity money?
Pass on to his mistress.
Yeah, but why? Why is he being nice, or is he being nice? What's the agenda? What's going on here? What's his motivation? Lois?
Yeah, I just think it's very interesting that he doesn't want to lose love. He's quite happy for conscience to go broke, but he wants love around in some way or other. So somehow or other it helps him.
Sorry, Alan, I cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking you don't skin the mark you don't kill the mark outright. You skin them gradually, and then they're still around to be skinned again next time.
Eric, I saw a hand.
I was going to say that, it maybe because, love has that sort of dual quality of being, not necessarily in the play, but as a concept, you can be true love, or it can be in love with an idea, sort of, where you kind of don't really, where someone's not actually in love with the person, but they're actually sort of, that he wants to keep Dissimulation, wants to love around because, sort of dangling false hope kind of thing.
Or it could just be a sort of sexy joke kind of thing. I want to keep love around. Conscience can go, I don't know, that was awful. Kill me now. Alexandra.
I was just reading that as existing purely for contrast, because if Dissimulation, if we saw that Dissimulation has it in for conscience, which he clearly espouses in this scene, it would be less impactful than if we saw that he has it in for conscience in a very contrasting way to how he's okay with kind of keeping love around. To me, that was because we've got these 3 ladies. He's working for one, he's working towards the undoing of another, and he's helping out the third. Kind of really delineates a rounder character in a way, whereas he'd feel a lot flatter if all he did was work for Lucre and nothing else, or all he did was work to undo conscience and nothing else. That's how I was reading that.
He wants to look like conscience, doesn't he? As well. So it's not just he wants to kind of resemble conscience.
Why do you say that?
Well, I wonder whether he wants to take her place, because not in a full literal sense, but in some kind of because Dissimulation is all about fakery, whereas conscience is pursuit of the right thing. So it's either this person is preventing me, in terms of them as principles, it's either this person is preventing me from achieving my full potential, or if they were gone and I could be in charge of that, oh, wouldn't that be great?
Other thoughts, Eric?
I was also going to say, well, like, sort of simplicity also kind of accuses Dissimulation of not caring for conscience, but then, like, ends up, spending the gold that is supposed to go to love, so for himself. So it's kind of like...
No, he says he's going to take it back to his lady, so...
Yeah, but then it's like, for now I have gold, I would feign some good meat in my belly. It's like, you're not quite sure whether he's going to spend it all or just like...
I think there's more of a hope and expectation the household will feed him.
I mean, I'm hoping the in-period equivalent of a Big Mac costs less than four ducats.
Okay, anything urgent from that before we go on to the next scene? Elizabeth?
Yeah, it feels quite episodic at the moment. Is that how it is from the very beginning?
No, this seems to be a little episodic moment. I think it's a demonstration of some of the different things going on. I could be wrong. We had quite long scenes in the long sequence in the first session.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a good structural point that we do seem to have two sort of snapshot shot moments that are moving the plot on, but they are quite short.
Yeah, and some of the characters haven't interacted with each other yet. They come on as pairs, and then it gets to fix in your minds that maybe Usury goes with conscience, and hospitality goes with simplicity, and it becomes fixed in your mind, those pairings.
It might be a technical thing to do with doubling, but it might also be schematic as well. So, yep, good thoughts. Other thoughts before we move to scene 8? Lovely. Okay, let's move to scene 8 then. We have the entrance of hospitality alone at the top.
Oh, what shall I say? Usury hath undone me, and now he hates me to the death, and seeks by all possible means to bereave me of breath. I cannot rest in any place, but he hunts and follows me everywhere. That I know no place to abide, I live in so much fear. But out, alas, here comes he that will shorten my days.
Oh, have I caught you, old graybeard? You be the man whom the people so praise. You are a frank gentleman and full of liberality. Why, who had all the praise in London or England but master hospitality? But I'll master you now. I'll hold you a groat.
What, will you kill me?
No, I'll do nothing but cut thy throat.
Oh, help, 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 for God's sake.
And at this moment, as Usury is threatening hospitality, enter Lady Conscience running apace.
What lamentable cry was that I heard one make?
Oh, Lady Conscience, now or never, help me.
Why, what wilt thou do with him, Usury?
What will I do with him, Mary? Cut his throat, and then no more.
Oh, dost thou not consider that thou shalt dearly answer for hospitality, that good member? Refrain it therefore.
Refrain me no refraining, nor answer me no answering. The matter is answered well enough in this thing.
For God's sake, spare him. For country's sake, spare him. For pity's sake, spare him. For love's sake, spare him. For conscience' sake, forbear him.
Let country, pity, love, conscience, and all go in respect of myself. He shall die. Come, ye feeble wretch, I'll dress ye like an elf.
But yet, Usury, consider the lamentable cry of the poor. For lack of hospitality, fatherless children are turned out of door. Consider again the complaint of the sick, blind, and lame, that will cry unto the Lord for vengeance on thy head in his name. Is the fear of God so far from thee that thou hast no feeling at all? Oh, repent, Usury, leave hospitality, and for mercy at the Lord's hand call.
Leave prating, conscience. Thou canst not mollify my heart. He shall, in spite of thee and all other, feel his deadly smart. Yet I'll not commit the murder openly, but hale the villain into a corner, and so kill him secretly. Come, ye miserable drudge, and receive thy death.
Help, good lady, help, he will stop my breath.
Alas, I would help thee, but I have not the power.
Farewell, Lady Conscience. You shall have hospitality in London, nor England no more.
And the stage direction reads, Hail him in.
Oh, help, 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 some good body.
Enter Dissimulation and Simplicity hastily.
Who is it that calls for help so lustily?
Out, alas, thy fellow Usury hath killed hospitality.
Now, God's blessing on his heart. Well, 'twas time he was dead. He was an old churl with never a good tooth in his head. And he ne'er kept no good cheer that I could see. If one had not come at dinner time, he should have gone away hungry. I could never get my belly full of meat. He had nothing but beef, bread, and cheese for me to eat. Now, I would have had some pies or bag puddings with great lumps of fat. I warrant ye, he did keep my mouth well enough from that. Faith, and if he's dead, he's dead. Let him go to the devil, and he will. Or if he will not go thither, let him even lie there still. I'll ne'er make lamentation for an old churl, for he has been a great while, and now 'tis time he were out of the world.
And enter Lady Lucre.
What, Conscience? Thou lookest like a poor pigeon pulled of late.
What, Lucre, thou lookst like a whore full of deadly hate.
Alas, I'm sorry for thee, but I cannot weep.
Alas, Lucre, I am sorry for thee that thou canst no honesty keep. But such as thou art, such are thy attenders here, attenders on thee, as appears by thy servant Usury, that hath killed the good member Hospitality.
Faith, Hospitality is killed, and hath made his will, hath given Dissimulation 3 trees upon a high hill.
Come hither, Dissimulation, and hie you hence so fast as you may, and help thy fellow Usury to convey himself out of the way. Further will the justices, if they chance to see him, not to know him, or, knowing him, not by any means to hinder him, and they shall command thrice so much at my hand. Go, trudge, run, out, away. How, dost thou stand?
Nay, good lady, send my fellow Simony, for I have an earnest suit to ye.
Then, Simony, go, do what I have willed.
I run, madam, your mind shall be fulfilled.
And exit Simony.
Well, well, Lucre, audeo et takeo, I see and say nothing, but I fear the plague of God on thy head it will bring.
Good lady, grant that love be thy waiting maid, for I think, being brought so low, she will be well apaid.
Speakest thou in good earnest, or dost thou but dissemble? I know not how to have thee, thou art so variable.
Lady, though my name be Dissimulation, yet I speak bona fide now. If it please ye, my petitions to allow.
Re-enter Simony.
Ooh, stand by, I'll answer thee anon. What news, Simony, bringest thou of thy fellow Usury?
Marry, madam, good news, for Usury lies close, hid in a rich man's house, but will not let him loose, until they see the matter brought to a good end. For Usury in this country have many a good friend, and late I saw Hospitality carried to bury him.
I pray thee, tell me, who were they that followed him?
There were many of the clergy, and many of the nobility, and many right worshipful rich citizens, substantial graziers, and very wealthy farmers. But to see how the poor followed him, it was a wonder. Never yet at any burial have I seen such a number.
But what say the people of the murder?
Many are sorry, and say it is great pity that he was slain. But who be they, the poor beggarly people that so complain? As for the other, they say it was a cruel bloody fact, but I perceive none will hinder the murderer for this cruel act.
'Tis well, I'm glad of it. Now, Dissimulation, if you can get love's goodwill, I am contented with all my heart to grant thereuntil.
I thank you, good lady, and I doubt not but she, with a little entreaty, will thereto agree.
Now, I have it in my breeches, and very well can tell that I and my lady with Mistress Lucre shall dwell. If I be her serving fellow and dwell there, I must learn to cog, lie, foist, and swear, and surely I shall never learn, marry, and to lie abed all day. I know to that kind of living I should give a good to say, or if to eat one's meat, then I knew what I had to do. How say ye, sirrah? Can I not? I'll be judged by you.
Now to you, little mouse. Did I not tell you before that I should, ere 'twere long, turn you both out of door? How say you, pretty soul, is it come to pass, yea or no? I think I have pulled your peacock's plumes somewhat low. And yet you be so stout as though you felt no grief. But I know, ere it be long, you will come puling to me for relief.
Well, Lucre, well, you know pride will have a fall. What advantageth thee to win the world and lose thy soul withal? Yet better it is to live with little and keep a conscience clear, which is to God a sacrifice and accounted most dear.
Nay, conscience, and you be bookish, I mean to leave ye, and the cold ground to comfort your feet I bequeath ye. Methink you being so deeply learned may do well to keep a school. Why, I have seen so cunning a clerk in time to prove a fool.
And exit Lucre and Simony.
Sirrah, if thou shouldst marry my lady, thou wouldst keep her brave, for I think now thou art a plaguy rich knave.
Rich I am, but as for knave, keep that to thyself. Come, give me my lady's gown, thou ass-headed elf.
I'll go with thee, for I must dwell with my lady.
Pack hence away, or Jack Drum's entertainment. She will none of thee.
And exit, I'm going to do Dissimulation.
This is as my cousin and I went to Master Nemo's house. There was nobody to bid a dog drink or to change a man a louse. But Lady Conscience, who there? Scratch that name away. Can she be a lady that is turned out of all her bewray? Do not be called more lady if you be wise. Everybody will mock you, say you be not worth 2 butterflies.
What remedy, Simplicity, I cannot do withal. But what shall we go do? And wherefore shall we, and whereto shall we fall?
Why, to our victuals. I know nothing else we have to do. Mark, I cannot eat 20 times as much as you.
If I go line and in, I shall be sore grieved to see the deceit of the ostler, the polling of the tapster, as in most houses of lodging they be. If in a brewer's house, at the overplenty of water and the sacredness of malt, scarceness of malt, I should grieve, whereby to enrich themselves all other with unsavory thin drink they deceive. If in a tanner's house with his great deceit in tanning, if in a weaver's house with his great cousining in weaving, if in a baker's house with light bread and very evil working, if in a chandler's with deceitful wastes, false measures, selling for the halfpenny, which is that is scantly worth a farthing, and if in an alehouse with the great resort of poor unthrifts that with swearing at the cards consume their lives, having greater delight to spend a shilling that way than a groat at home to sustain their needy children and wives. For which I judge it is best for me to get some solitary place, where I may with patience this my heavy cross embrace, and learn to sell broom, whereby to get my living, using that as a quiet mean to keep myself from begging. Wherefore, Simplicity, if thou wilt do the like, settle thyself to it, and with true labor thy living do seek.
And exit Conscience.
No, faith, Mistress Conscience, I'll not. For, and I should sell broom, the maids would cozen me to competually with their old shoon. And 2, I cannot work, and you would hang me out of the way, for when I was a miller, will did grind the meal while I did play. Therefore, I'll have as easy an occupation as I had when my father was alive. Faith, I'll go even a begging. Well, 'tis a good trade. Man shall be sure to thrive. I'm sure my prayers will get bread and cheese, and my singing will get me drink. Then shall I not do better than Mistress Conscience? Tell me as you think. Therefore, God Pan in the kitchen and God Pot in the buttery, come and resist me, that I may sing with the more meliosity. It says, mark my cold countenance when I begin. Yonder is a fellow that gapes to bite me, or else to eat that which I sing. Why, thou art a fool. Canst thou not keep thy mouth straight together? When it comes, snap at it, as my father's dog would do at a liver. Thou art so greedy that thou thinkest to eat it before it comes nigh thee.
And now he sings, except he doesn't need to sing. Just say the words.
Simplicity sings it, and experience doth prove no biding in London for conscience and love. The country hath no peer where conscience comes not once a year, and love so welcome to every town as wind that blows the houses down. Sing down, 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 down. Simplicity sings it, and experience doth prove no dwelling in London, no biding in London for conscience and love. Now, sir, hast thou eaten up my song? And ye have, you shall eat no more today. Everybody may see your belly has grown bigger with eating up our play. He's filled his belly. I'm never a whit the better. Therefore, I'll go seek some victuals. Remember, for eating up my song, you shall be my debtor.
Exit Simplicity, having really decided, yeah, I'm going to do the clown stuff really full throttle now. Audience play, picking out someone in the audience whose mouth is gaping open to lead into all the stuff about the song. He does a song. It feels like costume change for somebody is being covered here. I love the fact Conscience goes off to become a broom salesman. It's the only honest living there is available in the whole of the city. You can't live anywhere because they're all full of places. They're all places of iniquity. It's all terrible. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. A relatively long scene. Some great. Well, I say great. Some Lucre and Conscience's little back and forth. There was some good shit that escalated quickly. Yeah, the question of dissimulation getting Love's goodwill, and that plan is continuing to develop. And then, of course, let's just mention someone just got murdered. An old man was dragged off stage and brutally murdered. So yeah, all sorts of things. Stephen first.
Yeah. So I loved all the clown stuff, but I did, I couldn't really forget the fact that he's just gone, oh yeah, Dad, good. Yeah, he never really gave me the right kind of food because I want kind of snacks and stodge and carb loading, and he's just given me like beef. So obviously needs to die. And it's quite difficult to hold those two together, I think.
It does feel like he's just stepped out of the play at that moment and doesn't quite step back into it again. In a way that earlier he felt like he was part of the action.
One thing I would say with this food thing is it does remind me a bit of Commedia.
Yes.
Yeah, we had that. Was someone said that yesterday about clans? I think it was Liza. Lynn.
Yes, sorry, Stephen, but I've really gone off Simplicity today. I mean, he seemed like an okay guy in the first third that we did yesterday. I mean, not the brightest bulb in the pack, but he recognized fraud immediately, and he got on the simulations number eventually. And in this part, he just seems to be becoming like not only dumber, but more shallow and self-serving. Like that guy, hospitality, it's like his hospitality wasn't good enough for me. Wow, I kind of don't like him so much anymore.
Lots of hands going on there. It's interesting. It feels almost like he's found a good vein for a laugh, and it doesn't really matter that it matches the play. I feel like that got a reaction from the crowd, and therefore it stays in rather than it feels connected. Stephen, briefly.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, to continue that, is that it plays against the the cunning servant, or against what's said to be Tarleton's persona, which is the guy who's from the country who's smart and can outwit people. So it's a different kind of clown to the ones that we might have encountered before.
So maybe we're getting a sense of what Robert Wilson's clowning, if it was indeed this was his part, the kind of things going on. I saw lots of hands. I'm going to go to Pamela first. Actually, you were very much agreeing with Lynn on that point. Oddly enough, I'm finding him more interesting now than earlier. Doesn't mean I like him, but
yeah,
you didn't.
I didn't know him yesterday, so I can't compare. But I dislike him immensely, and I'm bored of him, which is probably a bit harsh, but yeah.
Alexandra, I saw a hand.
Yes, I wholeheartedly disagree, but for the same reasons. The thing is, without assuming what the author intended or how the process of putting this together occurred, which you may be very right about, what it's giving me as a modern viewer is character development, which I like. And also it's character development in a negative direction, which I like especially. So the fact that we started off with this character being simple in his wants, in the things that he's after, and simple in the ways that he wants to go about getting them, and he's been corrupted by the influences, by the influence of the people he's hung around, and he's now getting to a point where he's becoming intensely unlikable. I don't like him, but I find him fascinating. So he's coming much more to the fore for me now.
Sascha.
Just following on from Alexandra there, I quite agree. I mean, character develop, what a hell of a journey going from one stream to the other. But I want to add on to a very interesting possibility here, which seems to be becoming more and more clear as this play goes on, in the sense that it seems to be about every man for himself, or every woman for himself or for herself. Everybody, the majority of characters seem to be jumping on the bandwagon to try and get a little piece of that cake, so to speak. And now we've got Simplicity joining that bandwagon. It's highlighting the fact, even more so, that even through the comedy, the whole thing is that if anyone is not careful, and if we don't have something in place, the whole system could be corrupted. Every man for himself if everything goes by the wayside. Kind of a little bit like what we've been currently going through now, if you're watching this on the replay years later, when we were going through COVID. It's a little bit at the moment like every man for themselves, whether it be in the home or survival, and in this instance it's out in the field. Oh, I want a bit of that cake, I'm gonna grab it, thanks.
There's probably lots more to say about this scene. Eric, one last thought before we go our final short scenette.
I was just going to say that it's interesting because, what's his name? Simplicity is basically hospitality is there for the poor. So he's a wealthy person, or middle class, whatever person, who is caring for the poor. Whereas Simplicity, it's not enough for him. So you get the impression that he's either poor and wants more, or he's trying to climb above his station, so to speak.
Excellent. Hold on to those thoughts. We can come back to that at the end. We have one short scene left to do this session. We have the return in scene 9 of Enter Mercatore, the merchant, and Gerontus, a Jew. So hold on to your hats, people.
But, Signor Mercatore, tell me, did you serve me well or no, that having gotten my money would seem the country to forego? I lent you 2,000 ducats for 3 months' space, and the time came, you got another 1,000 by flattery and thy smooth face. So when the time came that I should have received my money, you were not to be found, but was fled out of the country. Surely, if we that be Jews should deal so one with another, we should not be trusted again of our own brother. But many of you Christians make no conscience to falsify your faith and break your day. I should have been paid at 3 months' end, and now it is 2 years you have been away. Well, I'm glad you be come again to Turkey. Now I trust I shall receive the interest of you, so well as the principal.
Good Master Geronto, pray heartily bear me a little while, and me shall pay ye all without deceit or guile. Me have much business for my pretty knacks to send to England. Good sir, bear me for 5 days. Me'll dispatch your money out of hand.
Signor Mercatore, I know no reason why, because you have dealt with me so ill. Sure, you did it not for need, but of set purpose and will. And I tell ye, to bear with ye 4 or 5 days goes so against my mind, lest you should steal away and forget to leave my money behind.
Pray heartily, do think of no such thing, my good friend, and me. Be my troth and faith, me pay you all every penny.
Well, I'll take your faith and troth once more, and trust to your honesty, in hope that for my long tarrying you will deal well with me. Tell me, what ware you would buy for England, such necessaries as they lack?
Oh, no, lack some pretty fine toy or some fantastic new knack, for the gentlewomen's in England buy much things for fantasy. You pleasure me, sir, that me mean thereby.
I understand you, sir, but keep touch with me, and I'll bring you to great store, such as I perceive you came to this country for, as musk, amber, sweet powders, fine odours, pleasant perfumes, and many such toys, wherein I perceive consisteth that country gentlewoman's joys. Besides, I have diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, smaragds, opals, onacles, jacinths, agates, turquoise, and almost all kind of precious stones, and many more fit things to suck away money from such a green-headed wanton.
Faith, my good friend, me thank you most heartily always. Me shall I content your debt within this 2 or 3 days.
Well, look, you do keep your promise, and another time you shall command me. Come, go we home, where our commodities you may at pleasure see.
And they exit. Who here thinks that Mercatorus is going to hand over the money? Hands up, hands up. Who? Oh, you think he's actually going to hand the money over?
Although I do think it might be a red herring, me thinking that, though.
Okay, thoughts about this scene? We're somewhere else. We're not in London, presumably. Liza, you're muted.
Well, we've had this motif quite a while before, that that merchants ship necessities out of England and they bring back luxuries, and the luxuries as we go on are becoming increasingly gendered. So there's some misogyny at work here, that it's specifically gentlewomen's appetite for these trifles and toys and expensive spices and perfumes that is at fault for the rot within England. You know, everything is women's fault for being a woman wrong, like usual.
Good. We didn't put that one in as a warning at the top. So it's nice to really be an equal opportunities offender here. Lois.
Yeah, I think they're acting out the proverb, far-fet and dear-bought is good for ladies. I think there was even at one point a play called that, although it's lost. But, I mean, it is sometimes quoted anyway, and that's clearly what it's about.
Other thoughts? Eric?
I was going to say that it's interesting how the Italian has an accent, but the Jew does not. I don't know if that's like in terms of writing. I'm not saying this to be anti-Semitic, but it's like sort of in the text, it's like, oh, Faith, my good friend, and then like, the Jew is very English sounding compared to, obviously they didn't really know what Turks sound like, I'm guessing. I don't know, maybe they did.
It might also just have been me reading it, but I don't see any accent suggested in the writing, to be honest, so...
And yes, overall the scene, I prefixed everything with potential warning, but actually on the whole, he seems to come off as just someone doing some selling of stuff. As a character, he doesn't seem to be coming off with much in the way of spin. Lois.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those things, isn't it, that you must find everywhere, that people with accents are funny or possibly villainous. People without accents are good. They're just like us. I mean, even when it doesn't make any sense. I remember a play in which the comic French characters all spoke with appalling French accents, and then I think the aristocratic ones just spoke standard English.
Yes, comedy or evil. Take your pick. Liza.
I can't let them off the hook for anti-Semitism, though, because Gerontus is very tropey. There's the first thing he says is that he lent the guy money, and that he defrauded, and that Mercatore defrauded him, which makes Mercatore the unreliable bad person, but it makes Gerontus the money lender, which again is a stereotype of Jewish characters at that time. They're in Turkey, of course. Goodness, pagan country. The other thing is that you mark someone as an Italian by their speech, but there might be, but there might also be, unfortunately, unhappily, there might be visual indicators of Jewishness for that actor, for that character.
Other thoughts, Alan?
Yeah, I must admit, I did not see this as being in any way anti-Semitic. Gerontus made a deal, I'll lend you money for 3 months, and 2 years later, the merchant is doing his damnedest to avoid paying. That effectively makes Gerontus the victim rather than any sort of bad character.
I was just saying that portraying a Jew automatically as a moneylender is playing into harmful stereotypes.
I understand that point, but I don't think that there's certainly I didn't see any explicit anti-Semitism in there. If anything, the explicit bias is against the dodgy Italian merchant.
You're right. Other thoughts? Pamela.
I'm quite enjoying just that we have changed venue, and it feels like, for me, it's kind of breaking up what's been happening before now. So a little bit of light relief, which maybe isn't the right terminology, but we are having just a break in the run of all of the things that we're coming up to now. I'm not explaining it very well. Yeah,
Like, well, we have just had a murder, I suppose, which
exactly.
then led to a stand-up comedy routine. So, anything else about this scene specifically, Eric?
Yeah, no, it was basically about the previous scene leading into this scene, but then, okay. I was just going to say that it seems like, well, the bit before sounds like a break, as in, like, they would do costume changes, maybe, like, even scenery change, whereas, and now we're somewhere completely different, with two new characters, well, new as in, like, a character that's not been there since the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, the previous scene, I think we got 6 characters in the scene, at least, at some point. So, yes, maybe it does make sense if whoever's getting changed to be Mercatore and Gerontus, if they are doubling as somebody else already in the rest of the cast, that, yes, Simplicity's song is there to a degree as a break, and that makes sense. Okay, we're into extra time. So final thoughts about the whole play, or this sequence of the play so far, its complexities, What is the play saying? Can we say what the play is saying? I don't think it's ceased to be problematic, but it certainly has got more complex in the various forces at play. And the questions again remains in the air of, what would we do with this if we were presented with the idea of putting it on in some fashion. So, anyone want to leap in first before I just start choosing victims at random? Okay, I'll go. Lois, you wanted to dive in. Final thoughts.
Well, I don't know if you've yet read the late morality called All for Money, but it seems to me that that's what this is about. I mean, pretty well every scene is about how everything is for money. And this last scene is interesting just because it transposes it to another country. Everything is awful in London. Okay, let's go to Turkey. Oh, what do you know? Someone's trying to get out of paying there too.
Yes, All for Money is on the list. We have a prepared script. I think it's been prepared. May even have gone through Alan for proofing as well.
Yes, I found reference to it today when I was tidying up some emails.
Excellent. So that's coming at some point in the foreseeable. Though when, who knows? But yes, there is overlap between this and other things. And yes, all about money. Sascha, final thoughts.
It's getting interesting now, and I like the fact, like I said earlier, that it's now turning into a free-for-all in the sense of wanting the slice of the cake and wanting a piece of the action, and the majority of the characters actually now wanting to do anything they possibly can to get it, and there's only one or two characters left that are actually coming from a genuinely good place, and it shows corruption well. So I cannot wait till it finishes tomorrow.
Famous last words. Alan.
Yeah, I was just thinking specifically on scene 9 that could be played as a front of tabs number to show the otherness of place, because effectively the scene before is in London, and scene 10, from the looks of the first bit of it, is also set back in at least England, if not London specifically. The message I've taken from this is the way Simplicity, who was portrayed in the first section as being a rustic, a miller, is getting corrupted by the big city. But that just may be my anti-London bias.
Fair enough. Tamara, final thoughts.
I still think it's worryingly entertaining for how problematic it is. I keep coming back to trying to work out if we get rid of all the problematic bits, if we have a play left. I do think that Simplicity seems to be getting this character development that I'm super intrigued by, and I can't wait for tomorrow either. I don't know what else to say about it as of yet.
Fair enough. Alexandra, final thoughts.
Yes, similarly, I'm enjoying as a dynamic sequence of events rather than enjoying in the sense of taking pleasure in the downfall of conscience and the rise of simplicity. They too seem to be the characters that have the most amount of change. And I'm finding it kind of harder to keep track of what is going on with whom and with what, in a way that I'm sure when we did, if we did this as a visual thing, it would be a lot easier. But I think there's more of that sort of stuff to be mined. I think there's if we look in more detail at the other characters, there will be a lot more sort of humanizing aspects rather than just being principles. That we as an audience could get out of that would help us to contextualize the problematic bits in the sense of not the author is saying or the play is trying to tell me this, but this character, who is an individual, has this opinion, which I disagree with. This other character has another opinion, which I disagree with. Overall, I don't like these people, but I understand where they're coming from. I feel like if we, as a modern production, if we could put something on that gives that, that puts that in the mind of the audience, then it becomes very interesting as either a debate or an internal sort of self-questioning of hang on a second, yes, I know that this happens nowadays too, and I let it happen. I don't agree with it, but I contribute, etc., etc. So it becomes a modern morality thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, that question of, especially if we've just done a scene with two people who, broadly speaking, have almost proper names. Not quite. If they didn't have the name Lady Lucre, Lady all those names, would it still, does that morality sort of hangover actually matter too much? And the play itself could simply unfold a little less schematically, as it were. Elizabeth, final thoughts coming in after on the second day. So, how are you finding it?
Yeah, I think that the episodic structure of the play is actually beneficial. I think it works for the narrative, and I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow when we finish it.
Excellent. Stephen, final thoughts?
Well, like a lot of people, I think I'm interested in this as a morality play, and the ways in which it's I know you can't divide social from Christian thought, but it's kind of a social morality, isn't it? And I suppose the contribution I would make is really, it was occurring to me that, we quite often get stuck into this kind of, oh, well, the morality way of seeing the world, if you like, was kind of on the way out, and yippee, we're into sort of personation and people doing proper almost realism and stuff. But I think it's, for me, it's kind of pushing me towards the idea that, well, it might not have been like that. The morality way of seeing the world is still a valid way of seeing the world. And this play is not written in the knowledge of what will come, if you like. What I really like about it is, having done so many earlier plays with beyond Shakespeare, is the way in which this is a form which is still kind of creative and exciting and mutating and surprising you. Right the way through, and that's who is the vice, for example, and who is vicious, and what is the relation between vicious and vice, if you like. So I'm really, really enjoying all of that. I'm enjoying the structural stuff.
Yes, I mean that thing, because I don't think the word vice has been used at all, even though we can root a lot of it in that tradition. But again, it's that we've been having a lot of fun with the 1560s and 70s, the playfulness of everything, and it's still doing things in the 1580s as well. Liza, final thought?
Well, one thing there's so much about this play that resonates with now, both the good and the bad, that we're seeing a lot of the same anti-immigrant statements being made now, that the influx of immigrants is being blamed for driving rents up, and there's so much anti-capitalism in this play, which again is very relevant to our times. I think theatrically, someone was saying earlier how the characters are quite humanized, and I like that. I think it's why so many of the characters work. Yeah, some of them are just stereotypes, but the writing is decent. And I think the most fun parts are when Lucre and Conscience are on stage together. I would like to see more of that. I would, in fact, love a whole scene with them just slinging insults at each other. That would turn it into more of a debate play, but it would be fun.
Lucre's basically coming and saying, "You look like a plucked chicken."
Yeah, you look like a hoe.
Yeah, it's actually, the Conscience goes that low as well in the response of just it was such an unexpected line that
Well, Conscience has been that petty since scene 1.
Yeah.
You know, she was always that bitch.
Pamela, final thought.
I guess it's kind of picking up on Liza's and Alexandra's points about the modernness of it and how it does appeal, despite, you know, being written so long ago, and yet a lot of the problems are the same, and how we haven't changed. So I think it would be interesting. Yeah, I think it's really interesting just seeing how it's kind of like the world is different, but we as people haven't actually changed in 400 years. So it's a slightly depressing thought, but I think it makes it work for me in a weird way.
Well, hopefully, of course, we've got one more session
Well,
to go.
maybe.
So, you know, this isn't the end. Maybe capitalism loses. Lynn.
Capitalism loses. Well, I'm just sort of wording in a different way things that Sascha and Alexandra and other people have said. That what's interesting to me about what's happened in the story today is the way simplicity has evolved, and also the hint that love too is implicated in what's going to happen in the future. So you know, when I started this with reading the allegorical names and so forth, I was kind of expecting there to be good guys and bad guys rather than good guys and bad guys and people in between love and simplicity who are vulnerable to corruption because of dissimulation and fraud and usury and simony, so that we have people who shift from the side of right to not so much, which was interesting and unexpected for me. That sounds a little bit like a kind of, that's kind of the takeaway that this play maybe wants us to have. It's like, you can have good intentions and be sort of sincere, but the ethos of radical selfishness changes people, and it corrupts things we care about.
Eric, you have the final thoughts.
Yay. Yeah, no, I was, because we always compare it back to Peddler's prophecies and stuff, and I was thinking that this play seems to know what it's doing compared to, well, I mean, at least we know what it's doing compared to, you know, are there stones in the backpack or not? Which was like an obsession for the entire, you know, 3 scenes. I can't remember what it was. 2 acts, 3 acts.
3 scenes,
yeah, of that play. Okay, obviously there was the moral side of, like, you know, the peddler doing stuff. But yeah, here it's like this play kind of knows where it's going, and it's very well defined. Like, it knows what the characters are doing. It knows like where they're going to go, kind of.
Yes, and it may also just be that, you know, it's 20 odd years have passed, and different audience, different setup, and in a sense less experimental. He dared suggest. Yeah, it's. I think we've had some really interesting thoughts. I have a few, but I'll probably hold on to them for tomorrow when we finish off this play. And all that remains really is to say thank you very much to everyone, and all the readers, all the people involved backstage, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.